Henry Lee Lucas was a man born into hell. Born on August 23, 1936, in a one-room cabin in rural Virginia, he was the youngest of 9 children in a family suffocating under poverty, violence, and perversion. His father, a double amputee known only as No Legs, sold pencils on street corners. His mother, Nellie, was a sadistic prostitute who forced Henry to watch her with clients and subjected him to relentless abuse. At the age of 10, he lost his eye after his brother stabbed him, and Nellie ignored the injury until his eyeball burst. She replaced it with a glass eye and kept tormenting him. She dressed him in girls' clothes, pimped him out, beat him, and destroyed anything he loved, even shooting his pet mule. Lucas dropped out of school by 6th grade and began drifting, surviving through petty crime and harboring violent, deviant fantasies. In 1954, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison for burglary. He escaped, was recaptured, and released in 1959. A year later, his rage boiled over. In January 1960, during an argument with his mother, he stabbed her in the neck. She died shortly after. He claimed it was self-defense, that she had spent a lifetime beating him, but the court didn't believe him. He was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to up to 40 years in prison. After just a decade, overcrowding set him free. Freedom didn't reform him. In 1971, he tried to abduct a teenager and went back to prison. Upon release, he met Otis Toole, a drifter as deranged as Lucas. The two struck up a deadly friendship in Florida. Lucas became infatuated with Toole's underage niece, Becky Powell, and together they roamed across the South, picking up odd jobs and, if Lucas is to be believed, committing countless murders. According to him, they killed hitchhikers, sex workers, and migrants in a spree so savage it defies logic. Lucas claimed Toole liked to crucify his victims, then barbecue and eat them. In one prison phone call, they talked casually about cannibalism, as if recalling a family cookout. Lucas would later say he killed people in every possible way except poison, strangulation, stabbing, shooting, hitting them with cars. His victims were often chosen at random, picked up on highways. And always, he said, it felt like he left his body like someone else had taken over. He claimed he had no emotions, no remorse. In 1982, he ran away with Becky Powell to avoid child welfare authorities. They ended up in Texas, where they were taken in by a religious commune. For a time, it seemed like they might settle down. But Becky grew homesick and restless. One day, she vanished. Lucas said she had left with a trucker. Later, he admitted he had taken her into a field, stabbed her, raped her corpse, and chopped her to pieces. Shortly after, he killed Kate Rich, the elderly woman who had given them shelter. He said he lured her out, stabbed her, carved an inverted cross on her chest, raped her corpse, and shoved her body into a drainage pipe. When he was arrested in 1983 for possession of a firearm, he sent a chilling letter from jail. I have killed for the past 10 years and no one will believe me. I also killed the only girl I ever loved. That letter opened the floodgates. Lucas began confessing to murder after murder. The number grew from dozens to hundreds to 600. Law enforcement believed they had found the most prolific serial killer in United States history. He was flown across the country, retracing steps, pointing out crime scenes, and offering vivid confessions. He was treated like a king, fed steak dinners, milkshakes, and allowed to roam jails without cuffs. Investigators handed him case files to refresh his memory. Lucas started becoming something of a celebrity within the justice system. Texas Rangers took him on road trips, even posing for photos with him, smiling beside the man they believed to be a remorseless killer. Lucas, meanwhile, basked in the attention, For the first time in his life, people were listening to him, feeding him, giving him purpose. He'd sit in interrogation rooms for hours, spinning stories soaked in blood and detail. The authorities, eager to close cold cases, rarely questioned the logistics. If Lucas said he did it, that was good enough. But cracks began to show. Journalists from the Dallas Times-Herald began investigating his timeline. Lucas would have needed to travel thousands of miles in impossible timeframes to commit many of the murders. His confessions, once gospel, began to unravel. It turned out many details came directly from the files he had been given. There were no recordings of his interrogations, no safeguards. He was just telling police what they wanted to hear. One of the most glaring examples came when Lucas confessed to a murder in Texas, while records proved he was working in Florida on that exact date. Discrepancies like that began surfacing everywhere. The dream of solving hundreds of murders through one man's memory was falling apart, and with it, the credibility of law enforcement. Texas Attorney General Jim Maddox eventually declared it a hoax. The Lucas Task Force, created to handle his confessions, had cleared hundreds of unsolved murders, many likely committed by others. Some lawmen admitted they just wanted cases off their books. Lucas, a mentally ill man hungry for attention, had given them what they wanted. Lucas was convicted of 11 murders, including those of his mother Becky Powell and Kate Rich. He was sentenced to death for the 1979 murder of a woman known only as Orange Socks. Years later, she was identified as Deborah Jackson. Lucas had confessed to her murder, but time cards proved he was working in Florida on the day she was killed in Texas. His death sentence was commuted to life in 1998 by then-Governor George W. Bush. Even in prison, Lucas continued to confuse, deceive, and manipulate. He'd alternate between recanting all his confessions and claiming responsibility for more. Guards said he remained eerily calm, almost content, as though satisfied by the chaos he'd unleashed. In one interview, he said, "They wanted me to be evil, so I gave them evil." Henry Lee Lucas died on March 12, 2001, of heart failure in a Texas prison. He took many secrets with him. Some still believe he was a true serial killer. Others see him as a disturbed man manipulated by the system. What remains certain is this: his lies cleared hundreds of cases, left real killers unpunished, and exposed a justice system more interested in closure than truth. In the end, Lucas may not have been America's most prolific killer, but he was one of its most dangerous fabricators, a man whose legacy still casts a long, chilling shadow. To this day, the name Henry Lee Lucas remains a cautionary tale, a reminder that justice can be warped by desperation, ambition, and the hunger for resolution. The faces of the true killers still hide in old photographs and police files, and the echo of Lucas's voice, calm, cruel, and eerily convincing, still haunts every cold case left in his wake.